He was found lying on the cold floor of a barrack, surrounded by men who would never breathe again. His body weighed less than a child's. His heartbeat was little more than a whisper. And when the British soldiers first saw him in April of 1945, they didn't know whether to call a doctor or a priest. But somehow, against every prediction, against everything the war had carved into him, the man lived. His name was Jakob Lewin, and what you're about to hear is the improbable journey of a soldier who survived 4 different concentration camps, only to return after the war, not for revenge, not to reclaim anything that had been stolen from him, but to save lives. It's a story that shouldn't exist, and yet, here it is. Jakob was born in 1918 in a small Polish village outside Lublin. His father was a shoemaker, the kind who could mend leather with his eyes closed. His mother stitched clothes late into the night. They were not wealthy, not powerful, but they loved fiercely. And to a young boy like Jakob, that was enough. By the time the war began, he was a student nurse. He believed in medicine, in helping people, in small acts of goodness, those that never make it into history books. Then the Nazis invaded. It happened quickly, quicker than anyone thought possible. Polish cities fell like dominoes, and Jewish families like Jakob's were pushed from their homes, herded into ghettos, stripped slowly, deliberately, of everything that made them human. In 1941, during a roundup, Jakob and his parents were separated. He remembered his mother's hand slipping from his. He remembered the sound of his father shouting his name, and then nothing. Jakob never saw them again. He was sent first to Majdanek. If hell could be given coordinates on a map, this would have been one of them. Majdanek was a machine, one built with cold efficiency and terrifying simplicity. Starve them, beat them, break them, burn them. Jakob arrived as a number, one more prisoner in a sea of ghosts, wrapped in striped cloth. But within weeks, something unexpected happened. A German officer noticed Jakob treating another prisoner's infected wound. Instead of punishing him, he shoved him toward the camp infirmary. It was a place of contradictions, where death visited daily. But so did the tiny, stubborn flicker of hope. Jakob cleaned wounds with water that was more dirt than liquid. He held dying men who had no one left to hold them. He learned to speak quietly, move quickly, and pray silently. He also learned something else. Helping others helped him survive. But Majdanek was only the beginning. Late in 1943, he was transferred again. The prisoners whispered the destination before they even saw the gates: Auschwitz. A name no one dared say at night, as if speaking it aloud could summon something dark. The first thing they did was tattoo his arm. 147,892, just 6 digits, punched into skin with the precision of a factory stamp. Jakob later said that was the moment he felt his own identity evaporate, like breath on a frozen window. But inside Auschwitz, Jakob found other prisoners who still clung to their humanity. Jewish doctors, Polish medics, political prisoners with medical training. Together, they formed a quiet resistance, not with guns or sabotage, but with small miracles. They hid sick children under blankets. They swapped the identification numbers of prisoners marked for death. They falsified medical reports, risking their lives for people they barely knew. Every time they saved someone, they delayed the machinery of the camp by a fraction of a second. And sometimes that was enough. But such defiance couldn't remain hidden forever. Jakob was eventually caught protecting a prisoner too weak to stand. The beating he received was so severe that other inmates thought he wouldn't survive the night. Instead of killing him, the SS transferred him again. Punishment disguised as bureaucracy. His third camp was Sachsenhausen. If Auschwitz was death industrialized, Sachsenhausen was torture disguised as work. Jakob was assigned to a bizarre shoe-testing unit, where prisoners were forced to march for hours each day wearing prototype boots. Some boots tore through flesh. Some were too small, crushing bone. Others rubbed skin raw until it peeled away. Jakob marched until he bled. He marched until he no longer felt his feet. He marched until he couldn't remember the sound of silence. But once again, inexplicably, his medical skills saved him. A German doctor noticed his steady hands and pulled him into another infirmary. Jakob didn't understand why he was spared so many times, but he used every chance to help the dying, the delirious, the nearly forgotten. By late 1944, as the German front collapsed, prisoners were shuffled like cargo from one camp to another, and so Jakob was sent to his final destination, Bergen-Belsen. If Majdanek was hell, Bergen-Belsen was what came after hell. There were no gas chambers here. It didn't need them. Disease did the killing: typhus, dysentery, starvation. The smell of decay clung to everything. Even the air tasted rotten. Jakob was starving. His skin hung from him like wet cloth. But even here, he found ways to help. He washed wounds with water filled from mud puddles. He shared scraps of bread even when he had nothing left to share. He lifted bodies so disease wouldn't spread. He whispered to dying strangers so they wouldn't leave the world alone. And then his strength ran out. When the British arrived, they found him barely breathing. Just another figure among thousands, but still miraculously alive. Doctors said he wouldn't walk again. He did. They said the psychological wounds would never close. Some didn't. But he learned to live with them. And when he regained enough strength to stand, Jakob did something no one expected. Something almost impossible to comprehend. He went back to the ruins of the camps, back to the places that tried to erase him. But this time, not as a prisoner, as a healer. He worked with orphaned children who no longer remembered how to play, with survivors who were afraid of silence, because silence reminded them of death, with families searching desperately for one another in the chaos of post-war Europe. Jakob never became famous. He didn't write books. He didn't give interviews. He didn't want applause. But his name appears in the quiet corners of history, listed in the memories of the people he helped. Survivors who didn't know his past, but remembered the gentleness in his voice, the way he cleaned their wounds, the way he whispered, "You're safe now. You're safe." Jakob Lewin died in 1988, at 70 years old. Not in a barrack, not in silence, but in a small hospital room in Poland, surrounded by people who owed their lives, in one way or another, to him. Sometimes history gives us soldiers. Sometimes it gives us survivors. But rarely, so rarely, it gives us someone who was both, and something more. A reminder that even in places designed to crush every trace of humanity, humanity can still return. And in the hands of someone like Jakob, it can even heal.